Yeah, man, we are live. It is another Thursday night reality check, and it's going to be a good one tonight. We got a special guest tonight, and you guys are going to really enjoy this. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have an adult conversation tonight. So I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat. Let me take a quick look. Primal Man, good to see you. Emmanuel Pinero, I think it's Pinero, good to see you, brother. Sergio, good to see you. Uncle Guns, of course. Self-Made, Woody Johnson. Anybody else in there? Stop in and say hi. I also want to welcome everybody from 21 Studios tonight. My name is Tony Bruno. If you don't know me, this is a simulcast from my channel, and I am going to make a disclaimer. The disclaimer is basically that the views and opinions on tonight's broadcast are not necessarily the opinions of views of 21 Studios content and affiliated channels. So I just wanted to make that clear. This is a simulcast. But also a couple things before we get started. I do want to recommend Grondike Soap Company, Tactical Soap. You guys, this is for men. This is a business that was built by a man for men. So get some soap, get some excellent deodorant, okay? Use my code KING. You get a nice discount, and that's tacticalsoap.com. Without further ado, I am going to bring on our guest tonight, and our guest tonight is Bunny, My Playboy's Bunny on Twitter. We're going to have a great conversation about attraction, and I have a little twist on it tonight. So, but without further ado, I'm going to bring her on live right now. Here we go.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. I'm glad to have you. This is going to be fun tonight. You know, like I told everybody, this is an adult conversation. We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about attraction. And we're not just going to talk about casual sex. We'll talk about sex in relationships and marriages, but we're going to go in your wheelhouse. So
I love it.
How are you tonight?
I am fucking fantastic.
Excellent.
Can I cuss on this show?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, this is that's why I say this is an adult show tonight, and the F word is in context tonight.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
I want to read to everybody real quick. I want to read basically your Twitter handle. Your Twitter handle is MPB, which stands for My Playboy's Bunny. Attraction expert, dating, relationships, and divorce recovery solutions. Your sexually enthusiastic tour guide to the girl brain. 20% girl brain, 100% fun. So
that's me. That's me.
Perfect. That's perfect. So everybody follow her on Twitter. That's My Playboy's Bunny. And also I'm going to read real quick. You got a little header here, but first I want to ask you, how did you get into this? And let's start with the name My Playboy's Bunny. I think I know how you got that. So
okay. I actually love telling this story, and I don't get to tell enough, so I'm super excited. So I'm connected to Fort Worth Playboy, for anyone who isn't familiar with us. And one night we were just like laughing and saying, you know, we have so many like sexcapades and just very cool sexual experiences, and we wish there was some outlet for us to be able to share that without completely alienating our friends, our families, our clients. We're in personal training. Like, there are just some things about us that not everyone wants to know. And so he was already on Twitter, just like with a named account. I was on it, but I never used it. And we were like, what if we did like an anonymous account? We were genuinely just messing around. Within 5 minutes. So I don't know if you guys have figured this one out about me or not, but I'm kind of like, give me an idea and I just do it. I'm not really like a thinker about it. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of like all in or all out. Mm-hmm. And so within 5 minutes, I had a Twitter handle that was My Playboy's Bunny, because at the time I was very much one of Fort Worth's rotation girls. I was a top echelon girl, but I was part of his rotation. And so, you know, he very much prided himself on being a player, a playboy. It was, you know, it was fun. It was sexy. And so I kind of embraced that. And I've always loved like the Playboy kind of feel and the, you know, the magazine kind of thing and the mansion. And I loved watching the show based on their lives and things like that. So it just seemed like such a natural fit for me to be my Playboy's bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And it just stuck. And for the longest time, people would refer to me then. Well, first of all, I was still anonymous at that time. So this was in 2018. And I was anonymous because then there's, you know, the fact that between the two of us, we have 7 kids, like we have families, my parents are still alive. There's all of this going on, you know, so I'm still anonymous. But we're having fun. We're sharing sexcapades and all this stuff. Well, he was finding that that he was kind of missing out on some of the fun because he didn't have an account yet. He didn't have an anonymous account that he could actually like play back. In fact, one time he had like retweeted with his named account. He had retweeted one of my more pornographic kind of tweets, and immediately somebody had screenshot it that knew us, that followed him on Twitter from, you know, his more fitness minded kind of account. And so that stopped very quickly. And the message that he was sent was something like, I don't know what you and this girl are up to, but you know, you need to tamp this back. And so then obvious choice, Fort Worth Playboy. And that's when it was born. So May 2018, I became my Playboy's bunny. And everyone for a good 6-9 months thought I was a man, just because of my views and opinions on things and my advice that I was saying and the things that I was reiterating. And so I was constantly, every day, it was like, this is a man running this account. This is just a fake thing. And it was just ridiculous. And so I was like, I'd like write someone's name on a piece of paper and I would take a selfie and it would just be like from here down and like make sure it was like showing some cleavage and like clearly it was a girl, but not actually showing the whole thing. And that was like a daily occurrence. And finally, we started having like requests for guys to talk to us, you know, consults and coaching and things. And we just started getting requests for it. And at that point, it's like, if you're going to be on video on a FaceTime call with someone, you know, you kind of just have to go with it. And again, I just jumped all in and the rest is history. And
both your accounts are actually, for like, we'll say a standard account, are actually pretty large accounts.
Yeah, he has, between the two of us, we have about 100,000 followers. He has considerably more.
Yeah, that's not small for, say, average people on Twitter. Those are pretty good size accounts. I mean,
and he only just started showing his face this March, so it's been.
I was going to say that because I had never seen him before, and then I saw on the channel, and I'm like, I saw your guys. Just so everybody knows, you guys do a podcast. I think it was 10 o'clock this morning. How often do you do those? And the channel, I do have links to Bunny's Twitter, her website, and Fort Worth Playboy's channel in the
Thank you. Yeah, so we have a podcast that's strictly voice that we do. We used to do daily, now it's frequently. We'd love to get back to it daily, but we try to keep it very short. It's usually about 10 minutes. Just quick topical kind of stuff. We do, I have a daily Monday through Saturday Wake Up with Bunny show that I do live every single morning over my first cup of coffee, and we just kind of peruse the internet together. So that I've got going. We've got the show that you're talking about. We do the Morning Hustle. So that's Fort Worth and I together. And for the most part, we try to steer clear of any of the like latest, you know, scandals or things like that on our.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah,
there's a lot of that, and we try not to get into that in our normal like Twitter stuff or X stuff, whatever we're calling it right now, because we want our our content to be more evergreen.
Mhm.
But for the sake of the morning hustle, which we do every Thursday morning at 10 Central Standard Time, we do kind of dig into what's kind of hot and relevant right that minute and what's at the forefront of what's going on. I also do the Buddy Show live on Sunday mornings, which everybody calls Buddy Church. So, you know, we have a lot of fun. I have an interview show that I do.
That's the point of it, isn't it, though, to have fun? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes these shows get so serious about everything.
No, we have a good time. If it got too serious, we'd stop doing it.
Yeah. My whole thing right now, too, is like, you know, we always hear the man side. And to be honest, there's very few women that I do want to hear from, because I always look at women kind of, you know, with a little side eye, you know, stink eye. And that's just normal, I think. But I also think it's important that we get into the girl brain, and somebody who's not afraid to actually talk about things. Okay. Like tonight, attraction is to me is a big thing that I think a lot of guys misunderstand. So as an attraction expert we'll say from a woman, we're going from a woman's point of view tonight. So that's the important part. That's what I want everybody to understand tonight. You know, and if there's some clap back, I get that. But the reason she is here is to give us her views, her opinions on attraction. And I'm going to put a spin on this, but first we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to kind of build up to that. So tonight's topic is attraction versus sexual attraction. And you'll understand why I'm saying that, okay, once we kind of dive into it. So first question is attraction cues. Okay, there's attraction cues that I think women give to men and that they don't pick up on. And I think this is going to be a real important question. Now, we know all the obvious cues where a woman, you know, will just say, hey, I want to fuck you, or I want to have sex with you, whatever. That's pretty obvious. But what are some cues that men don't get? What I think that they don't pick up on?
I think that the biggest thing that men do not pick up on, as far as when we're trying to show you that we're attracted to you, is that all of a sudden we're everywhere you are. Guys think that this is a sudden accident, or that, you know, you've just been missing it or whatever. But all of a sudden, once we, the female, decide that we've kind of got our sights set on you, then we're going to be at the gym at the same time that you work out. Mm-hmm. We're going to be arriving at the work parking lot at the same time that you usually do. We're going to be taking our lunch breaks at the same time. We're going to be going to the events, the social outings, the parties that we know that you're going to be attending. This is something that guys miss so frequently, and to me it's so obvious, but you miss it so frequently because you think it just happens to work out that way, and it never does. Girls don't do things like that on accident. We don't show up places where you are on accident. We don't touch you on accident. Things like this do not happen. We are calculating every move with when we're attracted to someone.
Mm-hmm. So what do you say to a guy that can't pick up on these cues, and a guy that might be verbally challenged, we'll call it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so these cues are being thrust upon you, we'll say. Yeah. It could be, you know, even after, say, you meet a girl and you exchange numbers and now she texts you something. I think that the responses that you give to a woman are important. And give me like an example of a text that somebody would miss the cue on.
Oh, number one would definitely be whenever a girl just like reaches out with something completely innocuous, you know, help with homework, help with a project, a question about something having to do with your profession, like, oh, my computer's acting up and you're an IT guy. Whatever the case may be, girls will reach out under the guise of something completely asexual, innocent, not attraction based at all. But really, it's you're in to start a conversation with us. And guys miss this all the time. They'll genuinely answer the question that's asked and think, why did she not just Google that? Or why did she not ask this person, or this person? But it's because we want to fuck you. It's because we're interested in you.
Let me ask you a question. A lot of guys that are in this space, my take on this, a lot of guys in this space, when they're coming into this, they're trying to learn. They could be out of a divorce. They could be new. They could be
there's a lot of that.
In the dating world, so they don't quite understand it. But there's a big thing that I'm going to bring up, and you'll probably agree with me, is that this is one of the biggest words in this kind of space, is the friend zone. That could possibly be mistaken for friend zone questions. So I think it's up to the guy to navigate that. And this is my opinion: navigate and escalate. Okay.
Yeah,
which I think is the way to do it. So how does a guy navigate those questions and making sure he's not trying to be friend zoned?
I think then the key is that in this example where a girl just reaches out, like texts something seemingly innocent, and he answers the question, he answers the text, and then says, okay, let's back up. So a lot of times girls will circle back. We'll be boomerang girls. So it's an ex, it's someone that maybe we passed on before because of bad timing or something, but now we're available. And now we're thinking about him. So we reach out, we text, hey, what have you been up to lately? Or, hey, long time no see. Or, happy birthday. I know it's your birthday. I hope it was a good one. All of these are invitations to strike up a conversation with us and possibly ask us out. So let's say you missed the mark on that, or let's say you want to pursue that a little bit more. The way you answer is say, hey, it's been 3 months. How have you been? Let's meet up and catch up. And then where her level of interest is, because if she says, that sounds awesome, I'm available Wednesday, or yes, I'll definitely be there, or are you going to be at so-and-so's party? I'm going to be there too. This is your in to making sure that she understands that this is an attraction. He doesn't give a fuck what you're doing or what your kids are doing or how your parents are. He doesn't care. He wants to get in front of you so that he can knee to knee build attraction with you.
Okay. Yeah, it's to me, well, see, my brain I don't give advice on this channel, but I'm the kind of guy that dives in head first. Like I don't and then I just next.
I'm feet first, your head first. We're a good team.
Exactly. But I'm kind of like, I can pick up on the cues. This is just me. And then if I see it's not working out, or I'm not getting the response that I want, I just next. That's all. There's a lot of guys that can't do that, because what happens is we talk about options in this space quite a bit. There's a lot of guys that don't have a lot of options,
or they don't believe they do.
Perfect. I like how you said that. They believe they don't, because I think men do have more options than they perceive themselves. I mean, there are certain things you want to make yourself look good. You want to be fit. You want to be healthy. And that does increase your options. But there are a lot of guys that cannot pick up on these cues. And like I said, sometimes you just got to go in head first, dive in, say what's on your mind, and you might be surprised of the response. Now, you might get a negative response too. So, but it's easy to move on. But I think
it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to have to know that it's a numbers game. You're going to get rejected, but you're also going to get a lot of positive responses. And as long as you are getting predominantly more positive responses than negative, then your system is working to an extent. At least it's working enough to get your foot in the door with enough new or social circle or ex girls that you can stay busy. But if you're getting nothing but rejection, you need to return to the drawing board and learn a little bit more.
I'll tell you what, when I first came into this space, we'll say it's probably 2017, there was, and this is, I'm going to go straight up on, this is my opinion. I am a believer in the phrase attraction is not a choice. And I'll explain that here in a second. I'm a believer that if a woman is not at first attracted to you, I don't think there's any kind of game you can spit or any words you can say to change that. And
I think that's pretty fucking true.
Yeah, I think it's really true. Now, a lot of guys do talk about your mouthpiece as a representation of, I'll say, what you want or what you're going for, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. If a woman is not attracted to you, it's over. It's over, move on. So what do you got to say about that?
Well, and that's where, I mean, it gets memed to death, but it doesn't make it less true. That's where, like, you know, the attractive guy and the like fat, nasty or unattractive guy, or the guy that she's attracted to versus the guy that she's not attracted to, saying the exact same words. One is like making her swoon, and the other is like she's, you know, calling HR, or, you know, she's screaming, you know, help, or police are trying to get away. Because I definitely think, I agree 99.9% of the time, exactly what you're saying is 1000% true. Because guys, I feel like there's the first level that the girl passes a dick test or not. You know, most guys would fuck most of the women they see the majority of the time if given the opportunity. It's still a whole, it's still a nuance. It's still like,
this is good,
the novelty of it all.
This is good because it's really leading into my topic tonight. This is perfect.
So first step, if a girl is even partially attractive and he's partially attracted to her, step one. Then maybe she's not all that like physically attractive. Maybe she doesn't make him want to pursue sex with her. But you know, they're peripheral friends, they're social circle people, whatever. But then he starts to like learn her personality. He actually like starts getting turned on because he actually genuinely likes the girl. Then he starts to want to pursue her more sexually, and then his attraction raises. This does not happen with females. The opposite is not true. You know, we are either attracted to you and then can either become equally attracted or less attracted. But oftentimes it's not going to go up. So we're either sexually drawn to you or we're repulsed. There's not generally a lot of gray matter for women.
Okay, I'm just looking at some of the comments here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just okay. Another thing is we talk about like looks and good looking, and I think that is kind of subjective, we'll say.
Absolutely.
I'm also a believer, and I've said this, I think I've said this on my last show, I've said this quite a few times, but there's a thing what we call looks matching, okay, which means people match of their looks. And I've said this many times before. Go to Walmart and you'll see the happiest couples.
That's a good line.
It just is. It's just a fact. You know, they could both, you know, she'll have the, you know, the fat spandex pants on and, you know, his belly will be hanging out, but they're just happy as hell, you know, going down the Cheeto aisle.
Yeah.
That's what you call a looks match. So I think that's a reality that a lot of men have to kind of grasp, and women too. Now, in this world of social media, that's going to kind of lead me to another question, which is, where do I have it here? The state of the state of women now, okay, with social media, with plastic surgery, with, you know, breast implants, so it can be makeup, you know, I mean, you know, a woman peels makeup off and she can definitely look different. You get what I'm saying? So what happens is, this is, again, I'm just going off my experience and my opinion. I think looks matching is a little bit harder now because I think women's social and sexual market value, they think is higher than it is, because any woman can go on Instagram and put some photos on, and I'm not going to use the SIMP word because that word starts to irritate me, but she'll have 10,000 likes on some stupid photo on the beach or something.
Yeah.
So what happens is, on a slow Tuesday, Chad's going to come over and bang her out. And then she thinks she's going to be with Chad on, Friday and Saturday night, which he already lost her number. And so what happens is that man that she should have looks matched with is no longer there for her.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And she ends up, we've heard the terms, the cat food and the box wine. That's the future. So
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So tell me about the state of women now
I talk a lot about that, and I love one of my favorite little throwaway things that I like to do is when I compare women with and without makeup. And oftentimes, granted, it's like from a makeup artist site. And so it's event, makeup, it's for their wedding, it's for a prom, it's for something like that. So it's a little bit more extreme makeup for them, but there are women walking around with this all the time. So it truly can be transformative. And I am a very vocal proponent that makeup is just supposed to enhance your already, natural beauty and characteristics. It's not supposed to make you look like a different human being. So I'm not a fan of like the heavy contouring, the heavy makeup, any of that. And I'm 45 years old. I'm not trying to appear to be 20 here, but I was raised that makeup was supposed to just be an enhancement and shouldn't like lead the charge.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly what you're talking about on social media, a girl who's a 4 is getting the attention of a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I'm not the first one to say that, and I won't be the last, but it's absolutely ludicrous. But if you saw the same woman on the street, she'd be completely invisible. No one pays any attention to her, which is why she's hanging out online, which is why she's doing her hair, doing her makeup, planning her outfit, and taking 120 photos through 5 different filters, and then also editing the best ones to share so that she can get that hit of dopamine or whatever, the attention, because attention is our oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
It's what makes us breathe as females is attention. And sometimes negative attention is as good as anything. But online, you're seeing pictures posted all the time of women that if you saw them in person, they don't look anything like that. But they've got such an inflated ego because they believe that they look like this. And this is something that always shocks Fort Worth when I say this, but these, we'll say 4s, these 4s that are 9s online, they genuinely think they look like this. They do not see themselves as 4s in the mirror because they are looking at themselves through these filtered lenses so heavily that that's what they truly believe that they look like. If they catch a glimpse of themselves with their hair up in a messy bun and a sweatshirt and no makeup, and they look like total dog shit, they think that's the anomaly and not the reality of what they really look like.
Yeah, we've all seen those side-by-side photos where the girl with makeup. There was one I saw, it was the roughest one I ever saw, but the girl had no teeth. And she put her teeth in.
That girl.
And then did the makeup. It literally went from like homeless crackhead to like actually a really pretty girl.
Stunning.
And
somebody has to wake up to the crackhead. It's terrifying.
Well, you know the one I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. And every time I can't blink or I might miss something while I'm watching her videos because she's actually ridiculously open about it.
I've only seen one, and this was a while ago, but it kind of stuck in my head because I watched the transformation. It was like it was like I think it was like a 1 minute time lapse kind of thing. So I was
Oh,
kind of blown away. I'm like, holy crap, you know.
yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've been on dates too where you go online and I have a hard rule that I'm going to video chat with somebody before I meet them, because realistically, when I started, my, we'll say, I don't know, probably 5 years ago with online dating, I'd
Uh-huh.
walked from 3 different ones.
Yeah.
And I said, never again will I. They were not the girl that they represented at
Well,
all.
and I would love to hear more about that, whether it's now or later or at another time. I'd love to hear more about that, because we get questions quite a bit about, do I have a phone call first? How much do I text? I mean, we talk a lot about like keeping it
Yeah.
very simple on the front end, but we have a lot of guys who do voice memos or a video chat before the date
Oh, a
to make
video chat
sure
is
that it kind of is clicking before you actually get in front of them knee to knee.
absolutely, a video chat is definitely required.
I
I
love
would
it. That's a
any
great
guy that's out
rule.
there just video chat. And if they don't want to, that just tells you something.
It does. Yeah. That's
So
huge.
I just know that I wouldn't do it any other way. We'll just put it that way. So
I think it's very smart. I think it's a great way to go. And it not only helps weed out who you aren't interested in, but if you can't even make a little bit of small talk on a video call, maybe
yeah,
a 5-minute phone call, then meeting up for even something as short as drinks is just going to be like dentistry. It's just going to be like pulling teeth. That doesn't sound fun for anyone.
no, not at all. Not,
Yuck.
but I think there's we'll get into that a little bit later, but there's also been, the ones to where they're, drinking super heavily, like
Yeah.
right off the bat, things like that. These are, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys who are like, hell yeah, like let her drink, that kind of thing. But that's not me. That's a hell no for me.
Well, and then you've got to take care of her. Inevitably, if she pre-gamed hard, or if she, I think that's what men, especially in the first date kind of times with new girls, what you guys don't realize is how little we eat right before a date. So the whole day leading up to this date, we want to look as thin and hot as possible. We don't eat anything. And so then you put like 5 drinks on that, because we're trying to match you drink for drink, because so many girls are idiots and try to do that. And the next thing you know, she's like vomiting in the trash can and taking her shoes off and sitting down in the middle of the street. And you're taking care of a toddler. Instead of having a really sexy time, you are just trying to get this fucking girl out of your space and home so that she can be sick somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat here again.
You're good. You're good.
I'm looking on my phone here. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get right into the topic. And the topic tonight is sexual attraction. We'll say attraction versus sexual attraction. And there's a reason why I came up with this. And
I think it's a great topic.
Yeah,
I'm
had
excited.
talked about this earlier. And again, we're going to have another special guest come on, I believe, shortly. If he's watching, you're welcome on anytime, and possibly 2 special guests. So, I mean,
the more handsome men surrounding me, the better. I'm all for it.
The first special guest that hopefully is going to come on shortly is going to be Pat Stedman. So I know he always adds just great volume to any of my streams. Especially,
I've been on his show. He's been on mine. I'm crazy about Pat.
Excellent. So let's get into it. So attraction versus sexual attraction. I'm going to give you my take on it. Okay, this is my take. Attraction. Initial attraction to a woman, I think from a man's point of view, we are attracted to a lot of different types of women. So I think the first thing that we look at, obviously, is physical. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is physical attraction. I think that's what it starts with men. Okay. Some women might say, oh, no, we're men, we're physical. Sorry. That's just the way it is. But when it comes to attraction, I have kind of a list of things that I think are important. One thing is that a good helpmate. Okay. We know that's even in the Bible.
That's biblical.
Yeah. So a good helpmate. we look for values. And when I say values, I think that values to me are, okay, I think that's kind of a broad term. Values are to me the same values that I kind of hold close to me. Okay. So I think everybody can have a different set of values, and that's fine. You know, I'm not judging anybody on what they think. She can be a pretty girl, but she's not a model type. Okay. And then the sex can be okay. And I think a lot of guys will hang in there for that, even in a marriage, which I kind of think is wrong. That's just my take on that.
I'd love to go. You know, that's one of my passion projects, is having highly sexually charged marriages for a lifetime. So I'm all for digging into that later.
So that's my part on attraction. So that's your basic attraction. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to get into sexual attraction. This is why I say attraction versus sexual attraction. I think there's a sexual attraction that guys have where, you know, it can be the girl where he knows, like, he literally can't stand to hear her speak. It's just that bad. But, you know, he's looking, you know, he's looking basically from here down, and that's it. And that is sexual attraction. And yeah, just like that. There you go. But that's kind of, this is why I say that I think there's attraction, there's sexual attraction.
Yeah.
She can have the hot body. And I have a little caveat here, and I'm going to say, again, in these spaces, we always hear these rules on why men and women cheat. But I think men just cheat sometimes because they just want good sex. Yeah. Period. There's no, it's not, you know, women, what it was the phrase, women, I can't even think of it now. It's just, I'm glad it's left my brain. But so that's the difference. So I have a regular attraction, which somebody will say, okay, she's going to make a good wife, a good mother, but things might not be perfect. Okay. But he's going to go ahead and say, you know what, this is good. I'm attracted to her. But there's also, I think you should have both, but there also is just sexual attraction.
Yeah.
I think that's normal. As men, that's normal. I mean, you know, I don't agree with, like, men want to put their dick in everything, because I don't, not at all. But there are women that you are just sexually charged by.
Sure.
I mean, it's my type. So that's where I come up with attraction versus sexual attraction.
Yeah.
So let me get your take on that.
Okay. I'm going to play off of what you're saying. So I do absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that, you know, just like the attractiveness scale, like genuinely where it's like 10, 9, 8, you know, down the scale of attractiveness, which is not as subjective. It's some pretty hard and set rules about symmetry, about, you know, about the symmetry of the face, the symmetry of the body, things of that nature. It's less subjective. It's an objective, very male dominant, you know, like it's a rule log of attractiveness of a scale. But then within that, like you're talking about, everybody has their types also, you know. Whenever I met Fort Worth online on a dating app, and I passed on him the first time I saw him, because when I saw him, I thought, there's no way that this guy's dating anything but like tall, model looking, blonde Barbies. And that is the furthest thing from what I am. You know, I'm short. I've got like brown, red hair. Like, you know, that's not me. I'm like, you know, a 6 with an enthusiastic personality, but I'm picturing him like with 8s and 9s, you know, with no personality. But he circled back to me because I was exactly his type. He says he likes, you know, petite redheads with big boobs. I'm like, I'm in. That's me.
There's a comment for you right there.
Exactly. But it's, you know, it's oh, did he just say that in the chat?
Yeah.
You know, it works, but it's on the attractiveness scale. You know, there may be men who want to fuck me, but they don't necessarily want to build a relationship with me. And that's completely fair. That's completely fair. I think that what you're saying about just pure raw sexual attraction,
Primal, completely primal.
and I think that's true for men and women. I think that women are less likely to admit to it, but just like,
I am so glad you said that, because
yeah,
that's what I wanted to hear you say, because some women will say that, no, you have to do this or do that, but if there is that hardcore sexual attraction, it's just going to happen. It's that
and
simple.
there's no rationalizing it.
Mhm.
It's not a rational thing. There's a reason that guys have experiences like, fucking the girls in the foam pit that they just met, 5 drinks ago.
Yeah.
There's a reason that there's like backroom bar sex. There's a reason that there are one night stands, and it takes 2 to do that.
Yeah.
So for women to to essentially lie, or to believe that this raw primal sexual attraction doesn't sometimes lead the way is just complete bull. But that doesn't mean that they want to build a life with the men who they're primally attracted to, but know would be a terrible husband, a terrible provider, a terrible, life mate.
Yeah, I mean, we hear that. We hear, we have the terms, Chads, Tyrones, all that.
Yeah.
I do get that, but that's not always the case. I don't think that's not really always the real world. That's a very small percentage of what's going on. We'll
Right.
say in the dating marketplace, in the sexual marketplace. It's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
And I think we can't, when men come into this space, don't focus on that. Focus on yourself and what you can do for yourself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and again, I'll go back to the looks matching thing, things like that. I mean, these are terms I think in we'll say the red pill sphere that you don't hear often. And I think
what I haven't heard in a while in relation to what you're saying is that because I totally believe that in the looks matching. I think that for the most part we date on essentially our same level, in long-term stuff, not just in fucking, not just in quick hookups, that can be a little bit unbalanced sometimes, but for any version of relationship, let's say, even if it's more like a rotation kind of thing. But what I haven't heard in a while is the phrase about men need to be a point or two more attractive than the female. But I think it goes a long way, and I think it bears discussing at least, because I think it does serve some purposes. It helps keep her a little bit humble, which I think is a very good thing. And if he's a couple of points higher on the Richter scale, when she dolls herself up, then she's actually going to be trying harder to look more attractive when they go out. She's going to be working harder so that people, because make no mistake, if a guy looks like, a REI model and the girl looks like a troll, she notices when they go out and people are looking at her like, what is happening right now? What universe did I just enter? Or they hit on the guy because they assume that there's no way in hell that those two are having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a couple of points higher helps keep that girl continuing to try harder to look great, to present herself well, and to be a girl who's worthy of running around with somebody who's a point or two higher.
Yeah.
But that's something I haven't heard much about lately.
Yeah, well, I think what's happened is that when it is like that, because when we talked earlier, because of social media and everything, she already thinks she's here when she's not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You get what I'm saying? You follow me on there?
That's probably what's happened to that.
Yeah, so I think that's what's kind of leveled out the playing field in some women's mind. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, like we can go back to the whole makeup thing. There's the women in the morning before they're going to work, they're spending, they're getting the bags underneath their eyes. They're not looking that good in the morning. So,
that on my Wake Up with Buddy show that I literally like go downstairs, I make coffee, I brush my teeth, not in that order. I sit down at my computer and I go live like a 45-year-old idiot. There are some mornings I'm like, this is a terrible idea. What was I thinking? No 45-year-old female needs to be on a live broadcast on the internet because the internet has a very long memory.
Yes, that it does. So so we're going to go back to the attraction versus sexual attraction.
Okay.
Let's say a guy does have the basic attraction for a woman.
Okay.
And I want your advice on this. And she is attracted to him, but he decides that he's going to go for it anyways. Okay. And pursue.
So they are mutually attracted to one another.
They are, but
okay.
there's not that primal feeling. Like, to me, like when you're with somebody, this is my opinion. When, a woman that I'm with, I basically want to jump her 24/7.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And to me, it would really suck to be a guy in any other situation.
I agree.
It would just not be. So why do you think, and I'm getting a woman's perspective tonight, guys, why do you think that men do this? And because I see it all the time.
I honestly, I hate to like go here because it seems so cliche, but I hope that we can kind of roll together with this. I think that unfortunately men and women alike at this point have been so programmed against their natural wiring, which is what you're talking about, to think with their heads, to think reasonably about things, to look at the thing, compare her on paper, kind of like very rational way of thinking, instead of thinking sex first, relationship later. They're thinking, well, I'm told that now I'm supposed to really be respectful, and I'm supposed to really, think about consent and thinking very cautiously and being respectful of this woman and her accomplishments and her family and all of these things that were a completely different scenario when we base things more on, just like you're talking about, just attraction. I think that now people are getting so scared to base things more on attraction because they feel like that's not what you can base a relationship on. That's not a safe way to go. It's doomed for failure. It's disrespectful of her, whatever the case may be. I think that I'm just going to say it. I think that feminism has kind of fucked the pooch on that one.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up something right in this kind of segue into that. It's like, and I know there's a lot of guys watching here tonight, of course. How many of you guys in the comments or whatever, if you've ever gone on a dating app or met a girl out and she says this to you, and you guys are attracted to each other, but she throws, well, I believe in friends first. And I am like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on that. Friends first. That right there is basically you're her puppy dog that needs to follow her around and, when she moves, move her couch and the refrigerator,
exactly.
kind of be her workhorse for a while.
I think to that I would have to say, if I were a man, I believe in friends who fuck first. Yeah. Well, Tony, how would you respond if we were on a date and I said, well, and we've been getting along great, everything's going well. We're thinking, it's kind of, I'm giving all the indicators of my interest, but then I hit you with, I really like to take it slow. I'm a slow burn. I really like to be friends first. I really need to get to know a guy before I have sex with him. How do you respond other than fuck off? Like, What do you say in that
You
moment?
are literally hitting the topic on the head tonight. That is attraction versus sexual attraction right there.
This is my passion. This is what I talk
That
about
is
23
exactly
hours
the
a day.
topic tonight. I mean, that right there explains exactly why I came up with this.
Yeah.
Exactly. My response would be a slow burn also, like a slow burn to finish the drink and get the hell out of there. It really would. I don't need to I don't really believe in stringing anybody along, and I don't want to get strung along myself.
Right.
You know? And I just think it's not realistic. Now I do understand any people that are, Christian, like myself, but there are, I have to take that into consideration also, that there are people that want to follow the golden rules, and I don't see anything wrong with that, and I'm not knocking anybody that follows that, but you are going to have blue balls for a while. Let's just say that. I mean, that's the reality. you know so I think that too is like when you do get into different religions, whether Christianity, Muslim, I don't quite know other religions, or whether Hindu, like, do you wait before marriage? Or I don't think most people really do. I think they might say they do.
I think there are a lot of those kinds of rules that are socially acceptable, religiously acceptable, that are given a lot of lip service on the front end, but then kind of fall away in a case by case basis. And I'm glad that you said this about like the religions, the different cultures, the things of that nature, because I say all the time, and it bears repeating in this moment, I speak in grand generalizations. Our advice, our kind of lessons, our teaching is very much for like secular United States. I mean, it's like there are different cultures that kind of see things differently, that have different social cues, that have different social rules and expectations. There are religious groups. I am a Christian, but I also enjoy sex. I mean, there are religious groups that are much more stringent. I mean, there are even within America, I mean, there are Jewish cultures that they literally don't even touch one another up until the moment that they are married. And I think that's beautiful. I respect that. I just don't choose to live my life that way. So most of my advice and my thoughts are very much for people who are open to, even at the front end, if they're like, no sex before marriage, but really that just means no sex until I decide that I like you enough to have sex with you.
Absolutely. Let me pause real quick and say hi to the chat.
I love it.
We've got Zen Master. Good to see you. MAP. I don't know if you're probably maybe here from 21, but good to see you. Jay Tahoe, what's happening? Asvaroon, good to see you. Asvaroon, I sent you a link. If you want to jump on and talk with Bunny, you're welcome to come on now. Now's a good time. In fact, anybody else that I've sent links to, if you want to jump on and chat with Bunny for a while, that's great. Now's the time to do it. So let's see who else we got here. I don't want to miss people. I'm trying to say Raw God. Good to see you. Russell C, good to see you. QB Passport Flexin. QB Passport Flexin is, I'm going to call him the leader of the Passport Bros.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, QB would probably be a really good guest for your show.
That's very cool.
Yeah, QB is, I'll call him the, I don't watch too much. In fact, he's the only one really I watch. Actually, another one too is Kings and Dreams. I watch him too. These are kind of guys in our little YouTube community on Instagram, but a few of them I watch. But these guys actually have a different take on basically dating. I don't want to say they gave up on the West, but they're finding that they're having more fun in different countries.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And if you have the means and the situation and the lifestyle to where you can, I completely respect that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's good to see everybody in there. Like I said, Asvaroon or anybody else you want to jump on, now's the time while we're having the conversation. Hopefully Pat Stedman's going to jump on and give his 2 cents. I've got a couple more questions. Let's keep this going.
Okay.
where is it? All right. I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked. It's probably 2 years ago. And I asked this in quite a few interviews and with different guests that I have. And I think this is a really important question. You're in, realistically, we'll say, I think you help both men and women, but I think the majority of your content probably is in a man's space, and we'll call it the manosphere space, but it really is.
A lot of guys, a woman in the manosphere? Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, if anybody wants to watch my podcast from, I think it was January, is Women in the Manosphere, Good or Bad, but it was really good with Pat Stedman, Foster. I had on Good Mother and Minka, and it was a really good conversation. Really, I think we dove into it pretty good that night.
It was a good interview.
Yeah, but since you are in this space, and I mean, I think it's important that men do get information, not just from men, and sometimes just like angry old men and angry men who've been smithed by women or whatever. You know what I mean? Blah blah blah. So this is a real important question. But I'm going to add something here to it tonight because you're here. The question is, how is the manosphere? We've heard this question all the time. The manosphere has helped men, it's saved lives. And yes, it has. Many, many lives. I believe that. There's, whether or not I agree with different content creators or had beef with them, I think that I look for a net positive.
Yeah.
But what I want to go to you on is, how has the manosphere failed men and women? And that's a big one. This is a tough question for a lot of people to answer. And it stops people in their tracks when you ask them this question, because we don't want to think of these men's spaces as places that fail men. But my time here, I've seen some things that I literally wish I've never seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think this space, we'll start, how has it failed men?
Okay. First of all, I love this question. I think this is a question that, even if you've asked it before, is not asked universally enough. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a really great topic of discussion. I think that the manosphere has most failed. I feel like a beauty contestant right now, because I'm just repeating what you just said. I feel like the manosphere has most failed men in that, in a similar way to, let's say, a Christian church has. Hear me out. Mm-hmm. Whenever there are groups of seemingly like-minded individuals, inevitably there's infighting. Inevitably there are problems. Inevitably there are people who disagree or agree more heavily. Something's said, something's done. But I think that we allow the differences to take precedence over the similarities. And so I think that so often, like the infighting, the things that are not 100% in line with the way that we think or the way that we want to think, tend to divide us. And I think that that's been a real problem in the manosphere. And because of that, I think that men have actually suffered the most. I don't know that women have suffered much from it, because if anything, it's actually given women like a foothold that they probably didn't deserve. Because I will say, I know that I am a female in the manosphere, and I do want to return to this, but I want to say, I know I'm a female in the manosphere. I know that, I get a lot of really great kudos for the fact that I do kind of think more like a man. Like I'm a little bit of an interpreter of sorts, mm-hmm. To that girl brain. But I think that a lot of women in the manosphere space who have worked our way in are really still just spewing a feminist agenda under a different kind of guise, and it inevitably comes out. But because of the infighting, because of the divisions, because of if I agree 75% with what one guy says, or what one creator, content creator, speaker, teacher, coach says, and 85% what he does, But then it's that 25, that 15% that maybe I don't agree with quite so much. But then it's like, based on that 15%, based on that 35%, based on that 50%, then you just throw everything else out as if nothing else that they have to say has any value. And that's a real concern of mine. You see that in the church, you see that in the manosphere, you see that in organizations all the time, where there are people who get divided over not silly things. I don't want to make it sound like the manosphere is kind of turned into a bunch of cliques and sections for no reason. But I definitely think that it was, as a whole, serving more men when everyone was playing a little bit more nicely together. I think now everyone is out to cut each other's throats, and that's, I think, a real shame. And I think that that's causing a real problem and making a lot of men who would otherwise be helped. I think we're making a lot of men pissed off, turned off, and kind of looking for another way to answer the questions that they have, because there's so much focus on infighting and not enough focus on just solving the problems and saying, this isn't my field. So I think that one thing that Fort Worth and I do very well is when we say, this isn't our field of expertise, but so-and-so is a great source for that. Or check out this. And we're not in cahoots with anyone. We call ourselves Switzerland. We see the benefits and the nuances as to what everyone is saying, and we give more credence to others just because we think that they're a little bit more solid in their character. They're a little more solid in the research that backs up what they're saying. But I think that everyone has something to offer, and it's the division that's causing a real problem, and it's keeping us from being able to genuinely help more men in the manosphere. And it's turning men off from the manosphere or the red pill or whatever you want to call it. They're looking for a fix that they could have found here in 2017, 2018, but they can't find it here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm going to pause you. I'm going to retort to that here. As Varun, I'm not going to drop the link live. I'd sent you it through email. So if you want to jump on, check your email. It's in there. So I did send you the StreamYard link. So also, where is it? Shift. My dog, Shift. He's got a great comment here too. When it turns into echo chambers and life denying. Absolutely too. I believe that solely. Yeah.
Well, good. And I mean, I think that a lot of what the manosphere becomes sometimes is just a big circle jerk, where it's like, just giving kudos where it's not necessarily always deserved. So then the people who have come here for help follow that and actually think that you're being genuine, when it's really just like,
I'll give you a little bit of my take on it too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I have no issue with people making money at all.
No,
but I think it's become a very profitable business. Okay. Like, sure. I should say, hey guys, like, I've got a super chat button. Now, I've never asked anybody to super chat me.
Yeah.
But there's people that really depend on that button right there.
Yes.
Now, I'm glad I have it, because I think I earned it after 2.5 years, which YouTube finally gave it to me. I don't know.
It was a long, hard fight.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I made all the requirements. They just don't like me. So, but who knows how long I'll have it? I don't care. But
they're just jealous, Tony. They're just jealous.
I guess so. But I do think that has become a money grab, and there are sections and cults and different things like that. And the super chat button to me has become not a form of appreciation. It's a form of validation.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just kind of like repeating your favorite content creator's lingo so he can hit that heart, or your name can be up in lights on the screen. So it's a form of validating each other, where I think that's where it's failed men.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, it's really simple. And I'm not going to say any names. I mean, everybody, can go where they want. I really don't care.
Yeah.
So to me, it's become more about money, and people can, I'll get a lot of kickback from that, but go ahead and shut that fucking super chat button off one stream. Okay.
Right.
Let me say that to some of these guys. Just go ahead and do it. Don't put your Cash App and your Venmo and your whatever, PayPal in one of your streams one night. Just do it. Yeah. Just do it. So,
well, I mean, it's no secret that money makes people act differently. We do things differently. We behave differently. When there's money on the line, people don't behave as they would when it was just a passion project, or when it was just about genuinely helping people, or genuinely having a platform to share opinions and have discussions. But once money's involved, all bets are off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but just, to kind of go along with that, first $500 super chat I get tonight gets tactical soap, 1 bar. Just kidding. It's again, I do this for conversations, have fun. It's, if you would ask me, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, if I would ever done this, I would have said no way. I'm not comfortable really on camera. I'm probably not comfortable with my voice or whatever, but that's fine. So I just do it to get out information, and hopefully some of my streams, which I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and still, I still get messages all the time through my email, and whether it be Instagram or Twitter. And I have said on my channel for the longest time that, and, I've had people, bust my balls on this, but the fact is that I don't give advice. That's not what this is about for me. It's not about giving advice. It's about giving support. And the only way I can give support is to get out information. If somebody reaches out to me and you want to chat or do a video chat, and you can tell me your story, or, maybe there's a little wisdom that I could kind of give you. That's it. But
and I think that's where you do a great job of being kind of a middle ground, being a moderator of the conversation, and bringing people together to be able to find kind of the common ground. So I think that you do a great job of what your strength is.
Yeah, I just, like I said, it's not a huge passion of mine, but it's something that I just enjoy talking to different people. Like now I'm going to continue to talk with women. Again, the last one a couple weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, was with a girl that does cam work, OnlyFans. And we had a really good conversation. It was fun. So I wanted to dive into that. And I had told people, this is not manosphere content. This is just content. We're going to get into the girl brain of why she does that and how. And I'm not going to sit there and judge her for what she does or try to save her or anything like that. But we did have a very interesting conversation. And I did get quite a few messages and emails on that. Some good, some bad.
I bet you did.
Well,
I watched that one.
Yeah, why are you promoting this? I'm like, well, it's not that I'm promoting it, but we're talking about it because it's a phenomenon that is going on.
It's a very real thing in our world right now. It's an important thing to not continue to just brush under the rug, or not. I think that what I love about you having the OnlyFans girl on, Ivy, that was her name? Okay.
She was a great guest.
She seems really like a neat person. I think that it's an important thing because, especially I would say in our neighborhood, we talk a lot of shit about OnlyFans girls, or I mean, it's essentially just the strippers of when we were kids. Like back then they would have been the strippers, but now they're OnlyFans girls. It's a very similar kind of mindset, but instead of just talking mad shit about them, let's talk to them and find out what their motivation is, why they're doing this, how much they're actually earning. Like, I thought it was a very good conversation that you had with her.
Yeah, it was fun. It was something different. And I do believe my next podcast also will be with another woman. And I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with it. I do have some options on that. But I think as men, if we talk to more women about, and Ivy was very open. You're being very open with me and being, I can tell you have no mask on right now, which I like. I think you're being very open and very just frank with us. And I like that.
Thank you.
I don't like people that have an agenda behind what they do. There's, you know what I mean? And I have found that there have been some interviews that I've done in the past. And to be honest, I've taken them off my channel because I think there was an agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or there was just a disagreement and then I just don't give a shit. So,
that's fair.
I'm very big. I mean,
it's your channel, so you have the right to do
exactly.
To do
I mean, if you look on my Twitter, it just says, I believe my header says, living a solid man's life, no one will take space in my head. I will nothing you. And that's what I do with people is I nothing them, which means I don't like you. I don't hate you. You're just nothing. It's like
that's the worst kind of thing that you can do is nothing someone.
Well, I've had some women say, "Are you going to nothing me?" Because that
don't deserve it.
That's a pretty cruel thing. It really is. Not cruel, but to me, it's like I don't want them to affect anything about my way of life or my walk in my path in life. So It's a real simple thing.
And men have that innate ability that you can do that. Women don't really have that skill set. We don't really have that, I would say, even opportunity. And those who do are incredibly selfish. I mean,
there's some, big name people, and I'm not going to mention their names. And what too? It's because I just said big name people because I think there's going to be some people that think I'm talking about them and I'm actually not. But I know what my life is and I know more about their life. My life is this is it, man. I have a construction business. I stay healthy. I surf. I mean, I don't hide much. There's not much for me to hide. I got some kickback for this too about skeletons. I don't have any. Sorry. I just don't, so I could say what the fuck I want when I want. So
I'm a pretty open book.
If you come at me, you might want to check your skeletons. That's all I got to say. So, but my days of basically arguing with people are pretty much over. I think I've done what I had to do, and I said my piece and let it go. And I wish no ill will really upon anybody. There was one of the guys that made a little video about me here. In fact, I'll play it for you. You might have never seen this. It's actually kind of funny. And I ended up just like, I've been on his streams and I'm not, he ended up being a surfer guy, and I just find him so interesting. But this is the first clip, and I'll play it for everybody, that I saw, and him talking about me. And I jumped on a stream one night, and we've been good ever since. But here it is.
Fucking made up. And Tony Bruno's a goddamn fucking agent. Uncle Guns is a goddamn agent. And same thing with Woody Johnson is a goddamn fucking agent. They're all fucking agents. This guy, I think Tony Bruno might actually be Satan himself. I'd have to get a look at his eyes, probably why he wears those fucking glasses. But he's definitely on the payroll. Same thing with Uncle Guns. He's definitely on the payroll as well.
So
But I've always enjoyed going on the Guy Bro streams. I really do. He's got some great conspiracies, and we've butt heads a few times, and he's busted my ass. I've busted his. But we do. I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I've always had a good time going on the Guy Bro. In fact, I don't know where his channel is. So Guy Bro, if you're out there, drop in the comments so I can see your channel.
Show yourself.
Yeah, show yourself. But I've got, I see Sergio in there. Sergio, I sent you the link if you want to jump on. And Pat Stedman just texted me. I'm going to text him back right now. But now's the time for everybody that I sent links to come on and chat with Bunny. Any questions you have for her? Some of you guys might have some good questions for her. especially a couple of you younger guys that I sent the links out to. But like I said, like Asvaroon and Sergio, you guys want to jump backstage? I'll bring you on. Jump on, man. Let's go. So I know Woody Johnson. I sent you a link also. So, but Sergio says he's at a loud place. But we're expecting Pat Stedman to jump on soon. So
I love it.
yeah. So, anyways, we'll get off that subject. I do have another question about the MGTOW, the MGTOW group. Which
Yeah. Okay.
I have no hate or anything for any of the MGTOW guys. I think they're doing their own thing, and if they want to walk away from women, I guess, or walk away from dating, that's their choice. I find it difficult because I think that's our biological need as men.
I agree.
I really do. I think maybe you've made some bad choices. This is just my opinion. Don't get mad at me, MGTOW guys. But maybe you made some bad choices, you know? So, and maybe you weren't leading the way you should have. I mean, there's a lot of things. Now, don't get me wrong. I get it. I get the whole divorce rape machine. I understand it 100%.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on MGTOW? I will say that, you know, MGTOW does say men going their own way. You know, they walked away from women, but I think there are some MGTOW guys out there that, man, when I look at them, I'm like, man, I think it was quite the opposite. I think women walked away from you. So that's just my opinion.
I think that's the perfect way to intro this with me, because probably and I don't get a lot of hate. Like I've been very, I think my age and stage in life goes a long way. I think the fact that I'm in a relationship goes a long way, that I'm not just like some young single girl on here, just like talking about the things that I talk about. I think that earns me a little bit of just kind of respect, and for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah. But the most hate that I've ever gotten from a group has been from the MGTOW group, because not only do they not want to hear women talk about sex, attraction, relationship, girl brain, they definitely they don't want to hear from women. They genuinely have zero interest in what I have to say. Now, what I always then counter with is, then don't watch my stuff. It's fine. I respect that. And I definitely believe that, and this is coming from a place of someone who hasn't had a lot of great interactions with MGTOW guys, but I definitely believe that for the most part, like the divorce rape, just going through a bad breakup, going through a family, dissolving, going through a marriage dissolving, I think that there's a healthy level of stepping out of the game for a second and resetting, focusing on yourself. I mean, putting yourself first, really resetting. But I think that most men are best suited if they don't stay there forever. The guys that I get the most kind of a blowback from or hate from are guys who decided to make that their life,
their home.
And they don't have any need or respect for what I say, which is absolutely fine, but they're so angry. I mean, they just come across as so angry that then they feel the need to tell me and teach me a lesson. And I'm like, you're not fucking me. You don't have any lessons to teach me. Exactly.
But there is that, we've all heard the red pill rage. A lot of guys stay in there. But there is that rage. I get that, to where, you're just fed up.
Yeah, and, I totally get it.
Going to court, every other month over child custody or something like that.
Absolutely.
Alimony. And I do understand that.
Oh, there are some serious cunts out there. Serious cunts.
Absolutely. But
they go out of their way. I mean, this is my gender, but there are a lot of females who will go out of their way to make their ex's life absolutely miserable. I get it. I can't even imagine. It sucks. Yeah. But those women have not gotten consult from me, because I do not teach that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I think it's a place that you could visit. And when I first came across the MGTOW, in fact, I think it was me, Primal, and Gonzo did a show. It's been a while since we did. I think it was What is MGTOW, and we were talking all the different. Is there such thing as a married MGTOW? We tried to pull every bit out of it, and I had thought about it, and I'm like, wait now. Maybe I'm more MGTOW than these actual MGTOWs. Don't get me wrong. I literally I love to date women. That's just
you enjoy the
and
company of
I
women.
love the company of a good woman around. But there's also I also enjoy this in my home.
Yeah.
Without any woman around. I'm honest, but I don't. I think that just walking away from them altogether and getting like hookers, doesn't seem to be healthy. Doesn't seem to be healthy for any man.
I agree. In my experience, it's not good for the brain chemistry. I think that, hey, Pat, I don't think that MGTOW is a healthy place to hang out for 99.9% of men. I think that kind of like the quiet cat lady librarians who have zero interest in sex or men or anything. I think that there's that. I think that's what a garden variety hardcore MGTOW is. But for the most part, I think that it serves the community in that but it needs to be a temporary stop, not a permanent choice.
Yeah, just like bring your sleeping bag and go camping for a little bit, but don't build your house there.
Yeah, exactly. Pat, I'm so excited you're here.
Absolutely.
I'm
this
glad to be here.
Great conversation, but you and I always have a good combo too. So I'm excited to see you tonight.
I'm excited to see you too, Bunny, and of course, Tony. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, obviously, just we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. I know you guys had a long conversation, but I guess the last thing you guys were talking about was MGTOW. And
what is your take? What is your take on MGTOW?
I think that I agree with you. I agree with what was just said about it being like fine as like a stopping off point, because I think that journeys in general, people have journeys, right? And I think that you could view from that lens MGTOW as kind of like part of an awakening process,
sure,
about female nature and about and how it very much can be or feel unfair. But my issue is that I think that there's like an inherent inconsistency. Like if a man doesn't want to bother with women because they don't like how women are, and they want to go do their own thing, they want to go their own way, it's totally fine,
right?
But then why are you talking about it?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, exactly.
That's kind of my thing.
That's a really good one, Pat. That's why you're talking about it.
Like it's
just like when they
go your
jump
own way
into my DMs, I'm like, why are you bothered by this, or why are you feeling the need to tell me? If you don't want to listen to what I say, that's fine. You don't need to come tell me that you don't want to hear me.
Do you think to me, what it is, it's like the cigarette smoker who stopped smoking cigarettes, the heavy drinker who stopped drinking.
Yeah,
they have to save everybody else who is in that situation or think they do.
Yeah.
When realistically, it's more annoying sometimes.
I think it's that it's very clearly on their mind all the time. So it's not. It's kind of like when they say they're going their own way, that they're done with women. It's almost like protest behavior. Like, maybe now maybe now she'll listen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not. The subconscious is responding very differently than what they tell themselves they're actually doing, and that's kind of my issue, because I don't care what people do. I just kind of want to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
To be consistent.
That's great. I love that accountability, man. I'm really big on that. Is when when a guy does have an issue, and man, I am not coming down on men right now. I get it. Trust me. I feel your pain more than anybody. And again, I'm there to support you. But there comes to a point after you're out of your rage, you have to hold yourself accountable. you chose that woman, you chose that path in life. You did. And not always. I get it. Women go feral. I get that too. But you do have some accountability for what happened in a relationship. Not all the time, but I'll say most of the time.
And I think there's something to be said for if a man is going to, or a person, this is a gender specific, but if you're going to live the rest of your life blaming your life on this other person, that's not going your own way. That's letting them lead the way the whole rest of your life. It's incredibly destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd just say to what you just mentioned, Tony, is that there's always something that you can take responsibility for, even in like the worst, most unfair situations. I mean, we won't get into it. I'm in an unfair situation, but you can always take responsibility. You can always see that you contributed in some way to your outcome. And I think you have to do that, and you have to find that. And a lot of guys get hung up on this where it's like, well, it's not fair. It doesn't matter. It's not fair. It's kind of like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't matter, because you just disempower yourself by not taking responsibility. You don't learn from the experience. Okay, let's say you married some woman who lied to you. She lied to you about, who the kids were. You paid child support all these years. She treated you like crap. She cheated on you. She's a terrible human being. Total scum of the earth. You married her. So, I mean, no one forced you to marry her. Yeah. So you can take responsibility there, and you can say, yeah, I chose this woman, and I was also weak throughout it, and I could have changed. I could have addressed that. It's just, I think people get too hung up on what's fair and what's not. Life isn't linear. There's no like linear, this is person's good, this person's bad. That's, no offense, it's how children think. The world is very complex, and there's if you want to really get down to it, it's not just cause and effect. There's like infinite causes in that determine a specific effect. It's just a matter of perspective, and we have to all we have control over is our perspective.
That's right. That's very true.
I want to welcome Asvaroon.
Hello.
So hello. How are you doing, Bunny?
Good to see you.
Yeah. Hi, Tony.
Good to see you.
It's good to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, man.
You've met Asvaroon before, I think. Asvaroon looks different every time. Sometimes he has a beard, sometimes he doesn't.
You're a man of mystery.
Yeah.
But so I want to get with Pat real quick on the topic tonight, which was attraction versus sexual attraction. And I'm hoping Asvaroon has a good question for Bunny tonight and can talk to her about this. But I kind of broke it down as to attraction. Your basic attraction is when you meet a woman, meet a girl, you think of her as a kind of like a helpmate. She aligns with your values. You think she's pretty. She might not be a model type or something like that, but you like her. And say the sex might be vanilla, so you decide to settle. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, I think, is your basic attraction. And then when I say versus sexual attraction, where the sexual attraction is just the primal need to go fuck this woman, just like fuck her brains out as much as you possibly can. I had added a little caveat to that, to where I think sometimes this is why men cheat. I think there's these rules that people have made up in these men's spaces on why men cheat and why women cheat. But I think a lot of times it can be men or women just want good sex. That's it. Just want to get fucked, period. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So that's kind of what I said, attraction versus sexual attraction. And I think that in marriages, I was married back in the day. I was, and we had a great sex life. We just never, we literally, even when we decided we were going to get a divorce, we still had sex until the day she moved out of here. that wasn't an issue. It wasn't.
I think that's more common than people like to admit.
Yeah, I think it is, but that wasn't, it's just we went completely two different paths, so there was nothing here. You signed the quitclaim deed on the house, I paid for it and done. It was just that simple. I probably had the easiest divorce in history. But, like you'll take this and that's it and you'll be happy. So that's what I say when I say attraction versus sexual attraction.
But I definitely think that a lot of men will settle for a girl who, like you're talking about, is relatively attractive, at least enough to look at. They do have sex, and Fort Worth and I always talk about, like, even just having consistent sex, finding a girl that will fuck you relatively regularly, whatever that means to you, whether that's 3 times a week or once a month on Sundays right after church. At least you can count on it. And that's enough for a lot of men, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm. So what's your take on, I want to go to you, Pat, first, and then
Bring the wisdom, Pat.
And then I'll go to Az Varun with any questions for Bunny or for Pat.
Well, I always view attraction in general as divided between desire and comfort. So there's elements of attraction that trigger desire. There's elements that trigger comfort. And I think that values and feeling maybe like emotionally safe and feeling like they take care of you, you can kind of like relate to them. I think a lot of that stuff is on the comfort side. But there's a few things on the desire side, and I obviously I think sex is one of them. I think sexual attraction is not the same as physical attraction. I obviously there's an overlap.
Bingo.
But there are some, and I think any guy who's dated enough women, I think women would say the same thing in reverse with men, that you could date a gorgeous woman, but she's just not really in tune with her sexual energy. Or maybe you guys are mismatched in some way. So, and then another woman who may not even be what you're usually looking for. There's just something you can feel the charge there. There's something that's being emanated, and I think that some of it is general, that every guy can feel it, that woman oozes sex, and I think some of it's specific, that you and her have a particular kind of connection. So when I've talked about like attraction, I've said the 3 pillars of attraction: pre-selection, persona, personality. Pre-selection would be a lot of the more surface things. Persona would be kind of game and affected behaviors that create charge, right? And then you have personality, which is more I'm being very super quick with this, not the good, but the more deeper things that are almost completely unconscious that make up who somebody is. I don't talk about this a lot, but I think that same structure applies also to sex. So you have, on the pre-selection side of things, you have like literally the physical features of that person that turn you on. And then you have the persona, which is, do they know how to fuck? Are they in touch with sexual energy? And then you have the personality, the sexual personality, which there's sort of a more, distinct compatibility between two individuals. And you and that person could have a lot of other problems, but you might have really, really strong sexual compatibility. So I do think it's different. I definitely think it's different, like sexual attraction and just sort of a more general attraction. Mm-hmm. And I do think that a lot of guys will, quote unquote, settle. The only thing, I guess it's fair to say settle, but I think we always look for things holistically with people, and a lot of it has to do with just broader priorities.
Yeah, so, I don't think they think of it as settling.
I don't think they think of it as settling, correct. And I also think that, you know, you can, like, there's a difference when you're looking at any kind of criteria, not just sex. There's a difference between like incompatibility, like you just like you have some kind of like almost like a revulsion on that sense from the other person,
Yeah.
or it's just doesn't work at all, versus like holy shit, this is amazing, it's just so natural and easy. And I think with any of the key areas, so long as you get to like this is good. And you know, I also think that sex can improve over time. I think that you can work. I don't think most very few people I think are really equipped to do that, but
Yeah.
I
I
think
do
very
think
few people actually put the effort into getting better at it.
Let me ask you
yes.
a question since you're on that real quick. I'm going to kind of interject here. I've seen this a million times and I've experienced it myself to where you get so comfortable with someone, okay? And we can call it, oh God, what's the other word I'm looking for? But you get so comfortable with somebody that, and I see this in marriages all the time. In fact, somebody had mentioned this to me this past week about basically I tried to basically have sex and she just wasn't into it. So I think there you get so comfortable with somebody that there's really not that, and I get kids and all that are involved, but I think you need to make that time. But it's just like you get so very comfortable and complacent that you're almost afraid to bring out your sexual side again.
Well, the sexual tension disappears.
It disappears, and you almost feel embarrassed to bring it up.
Yeah.
And I think you get afraid of rejection, and you just you get too comfortable is what
And,
it.
and I think that there's two things here. I think the first is that there's a natural in like women. I do think that there's a tendency for them to, you know, lead with a certain side in the beginning,
Mhm.
and you know, often will become more tame. Um, Especially in today's culture, though, there's a lot of, you know, things are really hot in the beginning, and then they sort of pull back and don't identify with it as much. But I think
Mm-hmm.
I think both the man does it to his woman, and I think the woman does it to herself
1000%. Yes.
with like the Madonna whore complex. In that, what I've seen with women is that um, being like, there's obviously some hormonal sort of dispositions, but I think fundamentally with women, it's a choice about whether to be sexual. Like
Mm-hmm.
men have, and this I think is the nature of yang masculine energy, is just kind of like emerges in them, and then it's like the challenge for a man is how he uses that energy. That's kind of given to him. But I think that for women on the sexual front, it's more about receptivity, and I think some women, and a woman maybe at different times throughout her life, is going to be more receptive. So I think a lot of women who are like high sex drive are more open to receiving sexual energy. And then so they kind of radiate it out as a result. It's like they there's a choice, because I've seen this with women. It's that the women, especially once they have kids, they start to view themselves, and I think it's unconscious, but they're like, I'm not that woman. And a lot of red pill guys, I think that they, I'm not saying that they're like wrong about some of the diagnosis here, but I think it's mischaracterized in the sense that, oh, now she got me, and now like I'm just like the beta and she's not interested in sex. A lot of it I think has to do with the woman's own issues in how she views herself.
Yeah. 1000%. Yes.
And she has to choose differently. And I think that's one of the reasons that often you see a woman kind of get to the end of her fertility range, not simply outside of a relationship, even within a relationship. And suddenly she decides, like, hey, I want to fuck. And like it just happens like that. All of a sudden, she's really horny. And it's like, well, how did that happen? I think there's a sort of choice that happened the woman decided to do. But women maybe do have some degree of issue. A lot of women will have an issue making that choice within a dynamic that's already been established a certain way, right? And so maybe the relationship ends, and then they give themselves permission to like be sexual. And a lot of guys take that personally, understandably. But this is what I'm building this whole thing to. I see in relationships the real issue over time, like things become comfortable and complacent. I think it's because that there's just not enough challenge within the relationship on a psychological level. There's, you know, when people bring up sex, it's like the guy will bring it up and it'll be coming. Either he's not going to bring it up because he's ashamed to, he doesn't want to get shot down, or he brings it up and it's like the wounded child in him.
Exactly. May
emerges.
I have some more, please? Like,
yeah, or he's like petulant about it.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from a place of like he's not owning the wound, and I think it's the same thing for women on their own part. And if you get into like a real I'm trying to think of the right word for it. There's a really good book called Passionate Marriage, which I recommend people read. It's very high level, but it's like the crucible, basically, where you're confronting these blockages. And from what I've seen and experienced, that when you really confront, like, you want to have sex, the other person, it's not always that it's not only always that the woman doesn't want to do it, contrary to belief in this community. It's probably 2 to 1, 3 to 1, easily 1/4 of the time the woman wants to have more sex, and it's the man who's got the block about it. And when you confront this crucible, it's like all of these belief patterns and things that are stopping the people in a relationship to really open up sexually, they start to break down. And when they do break down, the relationship, people get so close, but the sex, this is what's so amazing. It's like the sex gets really, really good.
Yeah.
But it's difficult, and it requires a certain level of willingness to let the relationship die, because it is really self-confrontation. Like, you're kind of holding space for the other person, but they have to confront themselves as you confront yourself. And that's why things get boring in a relationship, because people get comfortable and they get too comfortable. Like, a relationship is always tension and trust, right? Tension, trust,
Right.
tension, trust. And if there's not enough, like, when you have a good amount of trust built up, then you have to hit the tension again.
Yeah.
Challenge that next layer. And that's scary, because then maybe it will fall apart. You lose all that. But if you don't challenge that next layer,
it'll definitely fall apart.
Well, yeah, most likely. It can die in both directions. Exactly.
Right.
Or then you settle for something that's safe and comfortable. And,
but it's safe and comfortable, but it doesn't actually stay safe and comfortable. I think that's where people get so lazy, for lack of a better word. They behave in this way so that not to ruffle any feathers, but because of that behavior, then the relationship that differentiates you and your spouse, or you and your chosen partner, from any other relationship out there, you're not giving any time or effort to. So it falls apart in that way, just out of absolute fear or laziness.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. Preach.
I don't think that it's a hard concept for a lot of people, especially because you have to understand, in order to do it successfully, the fundamental principle is that you have to take full responsibility. This circles back to before, for the sex not being where you want it to be. Because even if, like, let's say your wife is not into sex and doesn't want to, go further. She's all bottled up. Well, if you're taking that personally, like part of the reason she's pulling back is because you are looking to her to behave in a certain way so that you feel good about yourself. So you actually have to own your own emotions and not allow yourself to get triggered by her own fear response to going deeper into it. And it's, I mean, once it's like you have to rise above the dynamics of the interaction, and then she sees that you're not like down there with her, and she's then faced with, she either has to rise to your level and confront her own fears,
Right.
or you guys naturally will grow apart and the relationship will collapse.
One thing that I have heard on a podcast this past week, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Andrew Huberman.
Yeah,
Huberman?
love him.
Yeah, and he was talking about, he had on, I think it's Rena Malik. She's a urologist that she talks about. She got a huge channel. I watched her channel just explode to millions. But he had talked about SSRIs and all these different things that are actually killing sex drive in women and in men.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I think that I'm not qualified to talk about. I don't know if anybody else is qualified to talk about it here, but I really listened to that in depth because, as we know, so many, probably more women than men are on these type of drugs. I mean, I've talked with Dr. Shawn Smith about this, about, you know, these antidepressants, and also the, you know, the I'm not even sure the name of them, your Valiums and things like that, but those like kill sex drive.
Well, and I would say that what you're saying about like more women than men are on them, I think that that's probably true as a whole, but also I think that women stay on them more longitudinally, where men may visit them in a time of need and then wean off of them. I think women, when they get on more predominantly than not, they get on drugs of this nature to stay on them forever.
Yeah, I think it's like 40% of millennial women are on antidepressant.
I believe it.
Yeah, that's like the Zoloft and all those different ones, right?
Yeah.
It's always kind of like crazy when if you ever like overhear a brunch.
Oh,
I'm looking for a power outlet.
A brunch.
You overhear some women at a brunch and like they're talking about all their like pharmaceutical drugs they're taking.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like pretty black pilling, honestly.
I want to go to Asvaroon. Asvaroon, you're on the hot seat now. So, any questions for?
What do you feel like talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the topic is attraction and sexual attraction. So, Asvaroon always has some great insights. Asvaroon is in India right now, and he is Hindu. So, in fact, anybody on 21 or on my channel, if you haven't seen my podcast and conversation with Asvaroon, it's on my channel. It's really interesting, very interesting, great time. It was just really a good time. So, but yeah, let's go to Asvaroon. Any questions about attraction or sexual attraction or any input?
Yeah, Bunny, I've noticed one thing. In a relationship, it's always nowadays, it's like a transaction. It's either based on lust, greed, or fear. And because of these three emotions, negative emotions, I've noticed the relationship does not last long. First, they say that you've got to be wealthy and prosperous to get a woman, and I'll agree with that. But in many cases that also has not worked out in the long run. Then they say that you have to be handsome, tall, and well built and athletic, but I've seen so many people who are handsome, tall, well built and athletic and who are beautiful also being divorced. Then there are cases of fear, actually, like probably for the sake of survival the woman would have married him out of fear, actually, and even that also has not worked out. So from my experience, actually, any relationship based on lust, greed, and fear has never worked out. So what's your take on that, Bunny?
I love that. I think that's a great take. So lust, greed, and fear. I think you're 100% on target, because women especially, you know, we can't just go for the good looking guy who would actually be a terrible husband, a terrible provider, a terrible partner, a terrible parent, a terrible father, you know, a terrible life partner. We have to, I think this goes along with something that, because you and I are not terribly familiar with one another, you know, I often talk about women are actually much less concerned about a man's physical appearance as other attributes. You know, we're okay with the dad bods. We're okay with a man not being, you know, ripped, jacked, and tanned, and all the things that you were listing exactly, because that doesn't necessarily make a great husband or a great partner. And I think that's where lust, greed, and fear come in. You know, one thing that Fort Worth, my man and I always say is that a woman's primary feeling, particularly once she's married and once she's a mother, is one of guilt. You know, I think that falls right in line with exactly what you're saying. But yeah, this is why you see some of the most happily married men, or the most happily married couples, I think, and it's not that either one of them are all that good looking. Just like Tony said at the onset of the program about, like, you want to see the happiest couples, go to Walmart. I don't know how familiar you are with Walmart, but it's a mess, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the happiest couples are at Walmart. They are. I mean, you know, like
yeah,
she's well overweight with the, you know, the yoga pants on, and he's got his belly hanging out, and they're cruising through the Cheeto aisle, you know.
but I think that what you're saying about lust, greed, and fear, and not necessarily the most attractive couples being the most successful, is 1000% on target. I agree completely.
Because I follow a lot of what happens in, like, the world of the celebrities, and the models from the 90s and 80s, they looked really very good, like Linda Evangelista, Cindy Crawford, then Nadja Arman. All of them have at least had one divorce, actually, like one or two divorces, or they didn't have successful marriages. Like, even if you can remember Elaine Irvin, all these women who walked on the ramp were so desirable. Even they too would have gotten someone desirable to be their husbands, but it all ended up in shambles, actually.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, your attractiveness doesn't change human nature. It doesn't change human problems. I think
Yeah.
that particularly, you know, celebrity couples are, I think they are set up for failure in most cases. It's just any of these kind of high pressure environments that you're nothing but under a microscope at all times. It's it's I think that's why the few that stick it out over the decades, like a normal couple would, you know, in kind of real life, and actually succeed. I think that's why we lift them up so heavily, because it's such an anomaly. But most of them don't last. Most of them essentially are just trading partners left and right. You know, it's Benifer, and then it's J Lo, and then it's whatever the case may be. It's just like a trading game, like card game in celebrity land. So exactly what you're saying. You would think that these people would be the most prepared to do the best, and actually it seems to be quite the opposite.
You know,
Because they've got,
as Varun, I wanna bring something up that you've mentioned to me, is that, and you've mentioned this before, that you yourself, you're in India, but you are not, when we're talking about attraction tonight, you are not attracted to Indian women, correct? You are
yeah,
attracted to Western women.
yeah.
So maybe we could talk to Bunny and Pat about that. And I think I had mentioned to you, I think it was backstage, that I had showed a couple photos of you to a girl that I know, and she was like, "Send him over here. He's a
That's
boy.
awesome.
He's handsome." So you know what I mean. So what is your guys' take on that, Pat and Bunny? Because I mean, as Varun is outspoken, he's not attracted to women in his country. Now, I see like an Indian woman. There was a girl that I had talked to him about that I had met here. This was probably 8 months ago or so, and she was Indian, but she was literally a total knockout. She was younger, but she was just absolutely on point. And I just I was looking at her and I thought, I'm like, how can Asvarun not be attracted to this? Because she was maybe she was an exception. I think she was exceptional as far as I'm concerned. Not as an Indian woman, but just exceptional as a woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so what's your guys' take on, we'll go to Bunny first, on why do you think Asvarun or is not attracted to Indian women and really only Western women?
Because he has a type. You know, I mean, his dick tells him what is attractive to him. And if his dick's not telling him that that kind of woman is appealing to him, there's nothing that his brain's going to say to override that. You know, it just, if it doesn't, you know, I know that's a very crass way to put it, but it's the reality that our culture doesn't dictate what we're attracted to in a sexual partner.
Mm-hmm.
Before I mention that, I just wanted to make a quick comment on the prior thing about attractive couples.
Yes.
And why they tend to fall apart so much more often. They're tested a lot more because they're attractive. They have other suitors, they have other options.
1000%. Yeah.
And so their relationship, they have to be way more on point with each other. You know, the roller pig in a motorized wheelchair isn't getting, you know, she's very happy to have the person who accepts her. I'm not trying to be mean. I am being mean. But I'm trying to
that was awesome.
to create this, like, because they're happy together because they're almost the physical attraction, everything is so not there that their relationship is anchored in this sort of more deeper kind of unconditional love. But, you know, I say unconditional love, but let's say one of those individuals was like, they're going to get in really great shape. And they, you know, I see this all the time, that they move past the other one because the other one won't go with them. So I think a lot of it, it's not that I actually view, like, my perspective on this ultimately is that looks, fame, all that stuff is not bad to have for a relationship. It's actually makes you have to consciously, you know, reflect so much more and really prioritize so much more. Like I think it's it may be a more challenging spiritual path for the perspective of a relationship than, you know, just kind of being complacent and hoping somebody accepts you.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Now, as for the you know, interest in women of a different, you know, race or ethnicity, I think that, you know, like Bunny said, there's a lot of personal reasons for that. I do think that there's some degree of subliminal programming from media that has sort of promoted white women in this way, especially because they're sexualized so much more than any other race. I think that Asian women are starting to go there as well, and I think that you're starting to see a big fetish towards Asian women. I'm not fetishes maybe, but there's a lot of guys who are preferring Asian women, find themselves drawn towards Asian women. I'm talking more East Asian, by the way, like Korean, Japanese. So I do think that there's a lot of subliminal stuff, but that's so like my grandmother caught me when I was in second grade looking at Victoria's Secret magazine, and she was like, "Oh, good, you're normal." But like, I have no idea if, you know, simply from looking at that, like, because I've always been attracted to tall model type women. I mean, was that like other guys I know are way into curvy girls? I just never have been. I've always been, you know, the gazelle. So
It's like that's what I was gonna, because when you said that, that's exactly was gonna be my comment to Asvaroon too, like kind of like a social conditioning is what it is, I guess you would call it. Just kind of what you see is what's being forced down your throat, or what you see maybe the most, or what you look at the most is maybe what you desire the most. Maybe not by choice, but just by that's what you've been seeing. So that's, and a lot of times I think with men too is something that is out of our reach is sometimes is most desirable. And I think that goes with a lot of men, you know.
Okay, I have a question along these lines for you, Asvaroon. So I have a personal training client actually, and he is Hispanic. And something that he said to me, because we were talking about like the girls that he dates and things of that nature, he said that he is not attracted to other girls who are Hispanic. He's not attracted to girls of his own culture because specifically they just felt too familiar. Their families looked just like his family. Their practices were just like his. It felt very incestuous to him. Do you feel like maybe that's maybe a part of what's going on with you?
Yeah. I mean, lack of adventure, because like I'm interested in something that's foreign and alien to me. Because when it comes to India, I've become so familiar with everything, the way people look over here, the customs and traditions, everything like that. It's like there's nothing new. There's nothing new to experience itself. So I want
Yeah,
a new experience.
I
So with
respect that.
India, yeah, that's the main problem actually.
That's
Sure.
fascinating. I mean, I think that's really interesting.
Well, I got two
Yeah.
words for you, Asvaroon. That's called plane ticket. Okay. Actually, three words: passport, plane ticket. There
That's
you go.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you
You're a
go.
passport bro, like in the opposite direction.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it would be. Yeah,
Hey, American women need love too,
yeah,
okay?
that's
Yeah.
right. So but you got to think
as
about
Varun
it.
gets to America and he's like, wait a minute, what have I done?
What
Yeah.
have I done? This place is a
I've made a
shithole.
terrible mistake.
Yeah, so probably get a round trip, not
Yeah.
just a one way.
Just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have kind of an open end on the return flight. So, but
He's
Yeah.
like, Indian women have never looked so good to me.
Yeah.
so as Rune, anything else that you want to bounce off Funny or Pat? Go for it.
Yeah, that we also said that many people say money brings happiness. There are a lot of people who are into that notion as well. So I've seen people like celebrities and oligarchs, they have it all: looks, money, status. They're the ones who are actually the most miserable in their marriages, to be honest.
Agreed.
They've got everything.
Yeah. Well, money doesn't cure problems. It's just that when you don't have money, everything seems to revolve around a monetary fix. I think that so when you don't have money to fix everything that comes across, you know, that's all you can focus on. But I do think that more money, more problems. I mean, I think that it's just a different style of problems that people
Yeah.
run up into when you have the money to make things the kind of surface level problems fix. It doesn't necessarily fix the fundamental issues that cause real trauma in lives. What do you think, Pat?
Well, to sort of, I mean, bouncing off of that and to sort of echo what I said earlier, I view, I think if we look at everything from a physical perspective, we're like, okay, you know, this is what money does, and that means it's bad. But then we can also look at lack of money and be like, oh, well, not having any money is also a problem. I think that God challenges people on through both hardship and blessings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, most people don't have money, so we think, oh, well, having money would be really great. And then it's like, actually, look at people have all this money and now their lives suck. Everything falls apart. Like money's bad. And I think money is, I view it as a challenge, as a test. I don't think that, I think many people, you know, do lose much that they love as a result of having that blessing. But I don't, I view it as you know, if you have that it's a challenge for you, and it's a good thing for your own spiritual growth. You know, I don't, I guess what I'm trying to say is, no, I don't believe that you should be pursuing money, you know, love of money over everything else. But I don't like blaming like a factor. I think it's
Right.
always who you are, how you respond to it, your level of maturity. A lot of people will get rich, they'll blow up their entire lives.
Right.
Maybe they get poor again, and then maybe they get rich the next time, and they have a proper perspective on things. And I see that very often. I think the issue is that the people that we see, for the most part, who are rich, had got that wealth in an unearned way, or in a very, very rapid way. Like they became a celebrity, so they went from, you know, they were maybe selling out some like empty shithole venues, and then they got picked up, and then within the course of a year or two, now they're on the top billboards, they're making millions of dollars. Or that's a huge spiritual test, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will flunk it, and they'll forget themselves in the process, and they forget the people, what actually matters. So,
Well, as Varun, I mean, in India where you're at, you're in a caste system and you're considered in the upper class of the caste
Yeah,
system,
yeah,
correct? Yeah. So
yeah.
do you think that can be an issue too? Like, do you think
Uh,
that is there is there a woman that's not in your class or your caste is what it's called, I believe. Is that
yeah,
correct? Yeah,
caste.
in your
Uh,
caste that you would be attracted to, but that you wouldn't, your family wouldn't agree with it. Is that, can that be an issue also?
I mean, that could be there. They over here actually, like my parents are a bit relaxed with whom I'd want to bring home. They're not very tight on these matters. But in general, in this country, they are in the rural areas. They're very conservative as to whom you should marry and whom you should not. But slowly, it's changing. Actually, it's slowly becoming like the West. But a lot of conservatism is still there in the rural side. Urban areas, they're no longer very bothered about whom you marry and whom you don't, but the
Hmm,
rural areas are very conservative.
okay. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I want to thank Pat Stedman for jumping on, of course. Always a pleasure. And we're going to do something shortly here, I hope, because I've got a couple things that I have my pad that I scribble stuff down, and I have certain ones just for Pat. So
You get your own notebook, Pat.
my brain starts working, and I'm like, "There's a good one for Pat," and I know
No pressure.
he can go with that one. Now it's like I said, Pat's always literally my favorite guest that always comes on here. Um, as far as, especially when we do our solo podcast and talk, he has been my number one guest, and I think the reason I say that is because his information and the way he can break down things, I don't think many people are able to do that. I know I'm not able to do that, and I'm not here to provide information. I'm here to provide a platform to give information with my experts. That's really what I'm about. So, and anybody from 21, check out my channel, check out some of my podcasts, especially ones with Pat, and check out the last one I had with Ivy. She's a cam girl and OnlyFans, but it was an interesting discussion for sure. So I really enjoyed that, and I do think my next one, I'm trying to do a series with women. I think that's important.
I think it's
Yeah,
really,
that we get different viewpoints, and in these spaces, I don't think we often hear from women, and women that are honest and frank about, tonight was sexual attraction and attraction. And I think Bunny gave us just great points and was really honest. And again, using the female brain, without being, is the word feministic? I guess you would call it. You know, I can definitely tell she's not a feminist. That's for damn sure. So
my father was very clear that he was not raising a feminist. Anytime I would kind of have that bent or kind of lean that direction in conversation with him, and I'm an only child, so it was just me, and he would stop me in my tracks really quickly and make it was very clear that he was not raising a feminist.
Yeah, I want everybody to check out the links on 21. Bunny's Twitter is in there. The channel Fort Worth Playboy is in the links on 21 Studios and on my channel. Also, that's what I want to do. Okay. Yes. Okay. Also, this is Bunny on her Twitter. It says, for the man who wants to fuck better and always be with the best lover she's ever been with, Bunny presents Fuck Like a Porn Star 21-day total immersion multimedia course. I love this. You'll become a fuck god, and every woman you meet will beg for your sexual voodoo, a deep dive into sexual desire and performance. That is awesome. I love the way that's put. So
thank you. I have a serious passion. I also have another course, and I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just saying I have a real passion for particularly whether men want to fuck their way around the world and have a different girl every single night and maybe, throw in a couple of afternoon delights with someone else, or they're fucking the same woman for 35, 45 years, however long they have. I want them to have high quality sexual relationships, because I truly believe that is the bedrock of how well they see eye to eye in every other area of life. I think it just makes relationship easier when the sexual relationship is good, which is why I have also Ignite Your Wife. It's a 30-day course, because there are a lot of people in sex-starved long-term marriages, like the people that we've talked about tonight, that are just miserable and starving for sexual attention, and these guys are at a complete loss as to how to reignite their wife. So sex is definitely my passion, and it's not meant to be pornographic or lewd. It's just because it's the one thing that you have with this other person that you don't have with anyone else.
Absolutely. And I think that more frank discussions on sex are important. Yeah. I know me and Pat have had those discussions. It's always come up, but I think it's important. But I do think it's an uncomfortable conversation to have for a lot of people. And it's uncomfortable
particularly for women.
Yeah. And it can be uncomfortable for even people watching.
Yeah.
But
and that's what Fort Worth and I talk about quite a bit. I know you're trying to wrap up.
Oh, that's okay.
Because he says nobody wants to hear me talk about sex. Guys don't want to hear other guys talk about the intricacies of sex. But I'm comfortable talking about it, and it helps that I'm not a guy. So it's a win.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with that. It is to me, it's kind of, it's different. That's why I say talking with a woman about it is different, because we're getting your perspective too. And we're getting a perspective that women like sex too. And I think that's a big part of the manosphere and men's spaces is about sex. So the more we talk to women about it that are open to talking about it, the more information men are going to get about that issue that they might have, whether they be shy or it's just, like I said earlier, vanilla sex, which is, everybody knows that's boring. It's boring. I mean, there's a time for a quickie. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
But there is, there's also, Pat, like I said, Pat's one of the first ones ever talked about, and I'm so on board with the whole energy thing. I love it. I just think that's so important. And if that, and I'll tell guys that if that energy isn't there, and that sexual energy isn't there with the woman that you're with, move on, because you will find someone that you can have that with, without a doubt. So, absolutely. But I do want to say also, Pat Stedman's links are in the descriptions of both videos on 21 and on my channel. So check out Pat, and you have to get on Pat's. I'm going to get on Bunny, you have an email list too, right, Bunny?
I sure do.
Yeah, and
I have one that's sex specific too. I have because I know that not everyone wants like, sexy titles coming through their inbox with their shared email with their wife or something. But I have adult education, which is sex specific, and then I have my bunny report, which is more generalized attraction.
Well, I'm gonna sign up for both of those, and so
nice.
I hope everybody else will. Like I said, Pat's. When I see Pat's come through, I got to stop and I wait till at night when I can read them, and I read them in depth because
They're
he gets super
good.
deep into everything he talks about. I'm trying to think the last one that was really good. Oh, God, what is it? I can't think right now. But
Pat, what was the last one that you did?
yeah, there was the one
that was on unconditional love.
No, there was the one before that.
They're always good.
Yeah, it was the one before that, but it was really, really good. I think I mentioned it on the last show you were on. But always, sign up for these emails and get on the list. I mean, it's just an email. If you start reading it, you don't like it, you don't have to finish reading it. But it's nice to kind of see what other people are thinking and getting their thoughts on these subjects, especially when it comes to relationships, especially if you're in a failed relationship or you're not in a relationship or you're looking to be one or you're looking not to be one. So, more information from people that give good input on things, the better. You might not like Pat, you might not like Bunny, but you might like their information. Who cares? Check it out. So, but we'll end it at that. If you guys want to hang backstage for a second, I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. It's been awesome. Bunny, you were awesome. I had such
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do it again sometime.
I had a good time.
Yeah, I'll pick up another subject soon for sure, but I would love to have you come on again. And maybe what we'll do next time is bring on a bunch of panel guests. I'll drop the link and we can just do a full-on Q&A. I wanted to do that.
I love that.
We didn't get a chance. We got so deep into everything. But Varun, thank you for coming on. Like I said, you want to hang backstage. Pat Stedman, thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure. And you guys hang for a bit and we'll end this. But cheers, everybody. Appreciate everybody watching. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.